Hi guys, welcome to my another modeling tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be modeling a watch. And let me look for a reference real quick, and it's not going to be exactly like one of those, but I'm just gonna use it as a reference. Yes, so to get started I'm gonna create a cylinder and make it a bit wider. And I can start to add some details here. For example, I can just bevel those edges. Now I'm just going to select the top part of the object and extrude it and add some offset. I think that's about right. And I can extrude it again and add some thickness. So it extrude inwards. And yeah, so now what I can do is select some of these areas like that. Actually, to make it simpler, I'm just gonna go to the front view and select those parts. Probably 3 of those. So I'm just gonna select them and deselect the center part of the loop, and now I can extrude them. But instead of adding thickness, I'm just gonna scale it up that way. So yeah, it's a bit nicer. Don't have to, scale it down in x-axis, so it's a bit more handy. And now I'm gonna move the pivot down to this point over here and scale it down to make this kind of curvature. Or you can even create another mesh and make it as a separate part, but I'm just gonna do it this way. Alright, probably a bit shorter than that. Yeah, I think this is too narrow, so I'm just gonna delete that part. And when you delete some part, you're gonna see this hole. So to fill that, I'm just gonna select top and the bottom of that hole, and I can breach it. Yeah, I'm just gonna repeat this process. After you're done once, you can just press G to repeat the process, so you can do it more quickly. Yeah, seems okay. Probably a bit longer. Something like that. So there's no right answer, so you can just do whatever design you want to do. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. And now I'm actually gonna select this top disk here, and I'm gonna detach it. I'm just gonna use it later for the glass part. So after you detach it, you can actually separate this part. So there are now 2 separate objects. Now I'm gonna hide it for a while and do more design here. I'm just gonna extrude it one more time. Probably scale it down like that. And you can either fill hole or extrude it once and merge to center. So now you got this kind of result. Actually, I'm gonna lower this down a little bit. Actually, make sure you select all of the faces here. Okay, that's about right. And maybe I'm gonna do this kind of bezel design. So in order to do that, again, I'm gonna select these parts, and again, I'm going to actually I'm gonna duplicate this one and hide the original one, and I can actually select these area and invert selection and delete rest of them. And now I'm gonna add more thickness there, or I can just raise it up a little bit so I don't get that kind of angular edge there. So yeah, that's the way I would do it. Alright, if I go to the outliner and show the original mesh, and now what I'm gonna do is probably I'm gonna add some division here, or can smooth it. Okay, I'm gonna isolate this mesh and let's bevel some edges to keep the crispness. So let's bevel it, and you can hit 3 to preview the result. Probably 2 segments to make it even more sharper. Okay, I like this. So when you do that, you can actually press 1 to turn it back to normal, and you can actually apply smooth like that. But before I do so, I actually want to add more details here. Well, probably I'm going to select them, and actually I'm going to do it later. So I'm just going to apply smooth again. But yeah, let's do some more, add more details here. I think that's better that way. So I'm just gonna extrude in and extrude it again and add some depth here. And now if I smooth it, you can see this. Probably I'm gonna bevel these areas as well. This time just one segment will be fine. So I'm just gonna smooth it. Probably 2 divisions. And I'm gonna add details on the side. I just want to make a little coin edge. I'm not really sure what it's called, but we could just extrude them, but I didn't add too much divisions when I made this cylinder, so I think it's better to do this way now. So what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna make a cube and place it there. Actually, we don't need this inner part, so I'm just gonna delete that. Okay, let me hide this for now. Alright, now I can bevel this and add more segments to make it smoother. Or can even bevel only these edges, something like that. And select top and the bottom and bevel it again to get this kind of smooth edges. Now after I've done that, I'm just gonna move the pivot to the center, and I can actually shift D to duplicate and rotate it a little bit like that, just a little bit. Just want to make sure that doesn't overlap with each other. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. You can actually do it in the attribute editor to be more precise. So after you're done that, you can just press Shift D again and again to just fill the entire edge. Or you can duplicate special if you don't want to spend too much time doing this. Okay. And actually I'm gonna leave this area for the crown. Oops. Alright. And now I'm gonna select all of them and combine it. And delete history. Now we got one clean object. So if I show the frame object again, it kind of overlaps, so I just want to make sure it doesn't overlap anymore. Okay. Now let's move this part. I just want to select all of the edges that we want to keep it sharp. Actually, I'm not gonna worry about topology this time because I just wanna keep it high poly, and maybe if you want a low poly mesh, you can model another low poly object and you can bake normals or something, right? Probably we can just select similar to select other part of the frame. And now let's try to bevel this out. Again, 2 segments, and if I smooth it out and check the results, and it seems to be fine. And probably you can detach the dial to make it look more separated. Just gonna grow selection like that, and yeah, again, I'm gonna detach that part and separate it. Now we got two different objects again. Alright. So this edge is not perfectly seamless, and that way is more realistic, I guess. Good. Now, let's add more details on the dial. I'm not gonna apply smooth yet, because I might wanna add more details later. So let's keep it like this as a smooth preview for now, and let's try something to the dial. I like this circular shape, so let's try that. I'm just gonna create a cylinder and isolate it again and remove the parts that we won't see in the final render, or you can just keep it if you want to create some disassembly animation or whatever you want to do. It depends on what you really want in the final scene, but I don't think I want to see the every individual parts, so I'm just gonna optimize it like that. And again, I'm gonna make that kind of shape like that. After I've done that, I can scale it down and place it on the actual dial and move it up. Actually, I'm just gonna go to the edit mode, and in the edit mode I can move it up so the pivot stays in the center, so I won't have to move it around again. Alright, so again I'm gonna duplicate it, and this time it should be rotated 30 degrees. It seems like something's wrong. Alright, that was translate. Sorry about that. Okay, now, yeah, I'm just gonna duplicate it and rotate it 30 degrees and just repeat it like that. And I'm just gonna remove this part to add that kind of design, or you can just skip it if you like that. So what I'm gonna do here is basically the same, but with the cube I just want to make it more angular this time. I'm just gonna do that and cut, extrude, and set keep faces together off and add some offset like that. So I'll take a closer look. And add thickness again. Alright, I can place it somewhere like that. I'm probably a bit bigger than that. Alright, for the rest of the dial, I actually want to select those highlight, and probably I can scale it up a little bit. Actually, you can go to the tool settings and change it to component, so it should scale up individually. Alright, we should center the pivot before we do that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna scale it up a little bit to highlight those areas. Or you can make something like this again and place it. Actually I wanna create another shape for that. So I'm just gonna start with cube again, delete the bottom part. And do the same thing to the top. Add thickness, probably 2 dip. Okay. I'm just gonna again go to the edit mode and move it to the right location. Just rotate it and shift D, locate it again and shift D. There we go. And probably I want to save the scene now. I'm gonna call it watch. Cool. And now I just want to add more details to the dial actually, so I can just go back to the original view rather than smooth preview, and I can extrude it again and scale it down to make a little hole there, something like that. I'm just gonna extrude it again, move it down and delete the face, and probably I want to add another bevel here to make it crisp with 2 segments. Now I can turn on smooth preview again. So now we're pretty much ready to add some needles there. Before I add some needles there, I just want to make a pivot like that, and probably scale it down. Just fit this in, something like that. And something like that would work. Again, I want to delete the bottom part to optimize the scene. It's not necessary. Probably I want to do that. Alright. And for the needles, I want to start from a cube and scale it down, something like that, and make it a bit longer for sure. And add a segment there. Actually, I want to turn it back to object orientation, get the right axis, and probably I want to do that kind of modeling. Alright, and probably I want to do the same kind of design as I did to the decorations there. something like that. You can just add another thickness there. Alright, I'm just gonna duplicate it one more time, and I think it's too thick, so let me just scale it down on y-axis. Duplicate it and lower it down, and I'm just gonna move the pivot to the very center and scale it down. Actually, let me rotate it a little bit to see it better. Actually, I want to turn on the wireframe view. Since it's not shaded, it's hard to see the objects. Anyways, yeah, basically that's it. And now I'm going to add another cylinder and scale it down. I'm just gonna combine with these needles. Just gonna do that. It looks alright. I'm just gonna duplicate one for the hour hand. Alright, I'm just gonna combine those and delete history and combine the hour hand as well and delete history. Now we got two needles here. Probably you want it to be a bit longer. You can always scale it, but we'll scale the cylinder as well. So what you can do is select the actual needle part and scale it up and move it. So yeah, until you get the right size, you can just repeat the process. Right, I think I like it. So finally, the second hand. I'm just gonna make it a bit simpler this time. Again, I'm gonna start with the cylinder. The process is basically the same. Probably a bit smaller than that. And just gonna select those parts and extrude it and move it up. Something like that. Probably I can make it flat and scale it down. Or if you want, you can do the same shape as others. It's really up to you. And now I'm just gonna add another shape in the back. I'm gonna make it thicker in the back. Make it flat and scale it down. And for more details, I'm just gonna add another cylinder, or I can just grab one of those. And bring it here. So in this case, we should fill the bottom. So yeah, you can just fill a hole like that and scale it down. I'm just gonna attach it to the back there, something like that. And again, combine it. Alright, I just want to make it even, so let's scale it up, something like that. Alright, now the watch face is basically done. And make sure all the pivots are in the center of the watch face, so it'll be more handy when you're actually animate these needles and everything. Alright, and probably I'm gonna add more details on the bezel. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. Probably I'm gonna start with some numbers. So for that, I can actually create a text. That before you go, probably it's a good idea to save the scene. And I'm just gonna rotate it. If you go to text option, you can change the alignment. I'm just gonna change it to this to center, and it's gonna start from probably 10, and you can choose whatever font you want to use. Alright, I can scale it down. Actually, we don't need these divisions on the extrusion, so I'm just gonna go to geometry, and if you go to extrusion, you're gonna see extrude division, so you can just reduce it down to 1, so now there are no divisions. And I'm just gonna make sure it overlaps, because I'm gonna use Boolean for this, and this way it can actually ruin the topology of your mesh. So if you want to keep your topology clean, you might want to consider other options, but you can always bake normals, so it won't be a big deal. Just gonna move the text up a little bit. Alright, now what I'm gonna do is duplicate it and rotate it like that. Now I can come back to the original text and type in another. Actually, it should be somewhere like there. Alright, can go back to type and probably do something like 20, and it's a bit messy, I don't know why. Probably we should get another font. It's not very clean at the moment. Maybe because I edited the mesh, so I'm just gonna roll it back and make sure I didn't move the actual mesh. I'm just gonna relocate this and move the pivot. It's a bit glitchy. And again, do that and go back to type and type in another number and duplicate it again, locate it, go back and type in another number and duplicate, rotate, and it's iteration of this process, so it's a bit time consuming job. It's a fairly simple design, so won't take too long. 50. And finally 60. Now it's done. When you're done, I'm just gonna select all of the type matches and clean the history. Probably I'm gonna combine it. And again, make sure it overlaps. Something like that. And probably you can do something more with this. For example, you can start with a cube again. Since it's just for Boolean, the scale doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of overlapping with each other. So I'm just gonna carve in like that and move the pivot to the center and rotate it to somewhere like that and duplicate it, rotate it, and you can just repeat it. Cool. And actually I'm gonna combine with the text mesh like that, so we only have to do one Boolean operation. Finally, I'm just gonna add a little more detail for the second markers. So it's gonna make it smaller. And move the pivot again, and this time it should be 6 degrees every time you duplicate it. So I'm just gonna do that and duplicate it 60 times. Okay, and some parts we don't really want, so it's gonna isolate them. That's really hard to see, so just let me do it here. I'm just gonna delete all of the unnecessary parts manually. Alright, seems okay, so I'm just gonna combine all of them again. Good. Let's save the scene before we do the Boolean operation. It's a bit glitchy, so it's likely to crash the entire scene. So yeah, it's a good idea to save before you go. So before we actually go, I want to duplicate this original bezel mesh in case of something going wrong. So I'm just gonna select the bezel and the Boolean meshes and select difference. It's gonna take some time, and now let's see the result. And it seems very fine. If you think those carvings are too deep, you can always go back and select all of the parts that you want to raise. In this case, I use select similar and do the operation again. Simple. So if you think it's successful, you can delete the history. Now you got this clean object there. Actually, something went wrong in this part. Let's roll back and see what's wrong. I think I missed one little mesh here. Okay, so I can just delete that. Let's double check everything. Alright, seems fine, so let me do it again. There we go. Now it's complete. Next, we can add some logo on the face. Okay, I'm just gonna use a text mesh, and I'm just gonna type in automatic and choose whatever font you like. Alright, I'm just gonna use Arial. And this time, I'm just gonna keep it as it is. We don't really need that much for this one, so I'm just gonna rotate it and place it in the center. Scale it down even further and place it wherever you want. I'm just gonna place it in the bottom, somewhere like that. And for the logo, you can make whatever logo you want. Let me show you some examples. I'm just gonna start with this cube and just gonna delete everything but the very top face, and let me add a segment there and do this, and I'm just gonna add some offset here with keep faces together off. I can delete them and add extrusion. I just made a quick logo. I can see something went wrong here. Okay, now I'll see why that went wrong. Okay, let me add thickness again and do that. Center the pivot and raise it down and place it wherever you like to put this. Yeah. All right. And finally, we actually have this glass object. I'm just gonna deal with this now. You can just keep it as flat, but I'm just gonna make it a bit more rounded, a dome shape. Oops, probably it's easier to do it this way. So I'm just gonna raise it up a little bit and extrude it, and where's the center? So if I smooth it out, It seems pretty fine. Maybe I wanna bevel this area to make it a bit sharper. 2 segments like that. Yeah, I quite like it. So I can smooth it. And save it. Now I'm just gonna select everything and delete history. And now you can actually clean these up. Now rename all of that and organize it. But I'm not gonna do that in this tutorial. Finally, let's add a crown. That's actually pretty easy. You can just start from a cylinder and isolate it. It's actually a whole bunch of extrusions. But before you go, it's better to add more divisions like that. Right, that's enough. I'm just gonna select these area and extrude it in. And you can do whatever design you want, really. I'm just gonna do that. And select this face loop and extrude it and set keep faces together off and add some offset like that, a little bit, and extrude it again, add thickness. Fairly simple. Probably a bit of offset. Alright, I'm going to select this part and extrude it again. I'm just going to make it a bit rounded. And it's a good idea to bevel some of those edges before we actually smooth it. Alright, now let's try smoothing it. And yeah, obviously these parts are not really good. So to fix that, actually what you can do is roll it back again and again and just select everything and bevel everything. And let's see the result. It should be better. It's not the best way to do this because, as you can see, it's not a very efficient way of doing it, but it saves a lot of time. Alright. And if you like, you can add the logo on the crown as well. It's an ugly logo, so but yeah, better than nothing. So now it's time to add some straps here, and actually straps are quite challenging. Okay, I'm just gonna start from a cylinder, add some, I'm not really sure what it's called, but let's add some part for the straps there. You can add more details if you want, but I'm not gonna see this in the final render, so I'm just gonna go with this shape and keep it simple. Now I'm just gonna create a cube like that. And make it thinner and place it somewhere like that. And actually we don't really need these areas, so just delete that and make it a bit longer, something like that. Alright, I'm gonna extrude these areas. Probably let's fill a hole before we extrude it. And again, extrude it. Probably I'm gonna make it as rounded as possible and delete them and select it again and select similar and bridge it. Now we got that kind of shape. If we smooth it, it's really ugly, so we need to work on this a bit more. But before we go, I'm just gonna duplicate one for the other side. And it should be longer. Something like that. And now, probably I'm just gonna make it a bit thicker. Like that. Right, if we can isolate it, we're gonna see these holes. I actually want to bevel them to prevent that kind of ugly smoothing. And now if I smooth it, still it's a bit ugly, but better than before. So I'm just gonna add more segments to prevent that. There, and probably one on the bottom. Actually, it's not possible. Alright, it should be fine. Actually, I want to make it a bit different. Something like that. Alright, we do that again. Seems better. Actually, I'm gonna delete that and replace it with this part. Good. And make it longer again. I just noticed now, but you should have start from the bottom for the text on the bottom of the bezel, it's kind of inverted, so yeah, it's a bit mistake. Anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead with the straps. It's too late to fix it, I guess. Yeah. So for the straps, I actually need more reference. I'm not really sure what it looks like. So I'm just gonna search for some straps. And yeah, we need to make this part and this little holders. That would be nice. And yeah, I think I got it. So if I go back, it probably should be a bit shorter. And again, I'm gonna start from with the cube. Yeah. And again, we don't really need those for now. I'm just gonna add offset, delete the center, and extrude it. Place it somewhere like that. If I smooth it, yeah, becomes too rounded, so let's add more segments there. Yeah, definitely better. And maybe this side. Alright, I think I like that shape. So I'm going to scale it again. Alright, maybe a bit thicker. Alright, let me check the reference again. It should be on the bottom. So I can move this something like that. We need more details here. Smooth it out, both of them. Should be covered by those straps. So I'm just gonna make it overlap with each other. If you want more details, you can just make hole like I did on this side. Now I can make that little hook. Right. Something like that. And probably I want to bevel this. Make it a bit curved by rotating it. Yeah, something like that. Now I'm gonna go back to this part and probably I'm gonna extrude that part over there. add some offset and extrude it again. Do something like that. If I smooth it out, you got those kind of shape. Yeah, let's try to fit in. And for the other part of this strap, I'm gonna make that kind of shape. And before we go, let's smooth it. Something like that. And smooth this one as well. And clear the history, and now again I'm gonna use the boolean to make some holes there. And yeah, about 7 holes. So I'm gonna simply place it somewhere like that and make sure it's long enough to pierce it. Right, and now I can duplicate it about 7 times. Again, I can combine them and delete history, and again, boolean intersection difference. Before you do that, make sure you save the scene. And there we go. I'm just going to delete all of the history now. Cool. And probably I'm going to combine them as well. Alright, now it's time for some deformers to add some curvature to this strap. So what you can use is, if you go to deform and nonlinear, you're going to see bend. So if you add a bend deformer, you're going to see this line. If you add some curvature, you can see what direction it's curving. So you can just rotate it to the right direction. In this case, it should face the bottom like that. And yeah, I just noticed we don't have enough resolution for the curvature, so you see those kind of weird shapes, and we don't really want that. So let's roll it back before we apply the boolean effect. We should add more resolution here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smooth it one more time or a couple more times, and it will make it far better. So clear the history again, do the same boolean. There we go. And probably I'm gonna add more division here as well, probably 2 times. There we go. Let's clear the history again. Again, I'm just gonna combine those as well. Cool. So what I can do now is, again, I'm gonna go to deform and go to non-linear and bend and get the right direction as I did before. If you do that, you're gonna see this, but you can actually move the this guideline to make the shape you want. So I'm just gonna make this area steady, and now you have to adjust all of these values. I'm just gonna do the same thing to this part. Let's go to deform and go to non-linear and bend. Again, get the right direction. Something like that. Adjust the high bound. Something like that. And yeah, gotta make sure that those parts it's a bit tricky, so I'm just gonna do that, and probably I'm gonna move the pivot to there and rotate it. But before you actually rotate, you should delete the history. So I'm just gonna rotate it something like that, and I'm just gonna delete the history for this one as well, and move the pivot, and rotate it that way. Actually, let's see what else we can do. Yeah, I'm just gonna make it perfectly rounded like that, and a bit more rounded for this one as well. Now delete history for both of them and start to rotate it. It's actually really tricky. Let's go back. Okay, I just want to keep this part as a reference, and then just gonna try to fit this in. I just want to scale it a bit, or not really sure this is gonna work, but let's try self-selection. Kinda works. So all we have to do is fit this to this area. Or we can select, actually we can group them and rotate them all at once. Of course, we should relocate the pivot to the proper location. So if I do that, it's a bit better. Right, just gonna do that, and let's delete the history. I'm just gonna grab that part and rotate it. Oops, just like that as well. Rotate it. Probably we should move the pivot as well. So I'm just gonna move the pivot to that area and just do that. Make sure it goes through the hole. Yeah, kind of done. It's not super precise, but yeah, anyways, you could spend more time doing this if you want. That part is actually overlapping, so let me fix it real quick. I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit. Yeah, it's really tricky to deal with this kind of organic shape. So now the modeling is basically done. So it's time to move on to the rendering part. And I'm actually going to start by creating new materials for the frame and everything. So I'm just gonna create a new material called AI metal, and I'm just gonna start from preset, and you're gonna see black, and I don't really want that, so I'm just gonna add some lights to the scene, for example skydome light, and I can temporarily create some studio map by going to color, and you can choose ramp. I'm just gonna make some noisy ramp texture there. Maybe change it to something like diagonal or box ramp. It seems to work pretty nice. Right, I'm just gonna go with that. Alright, now what I can do is I don't really want to see this in the camera and the viewport. I can just reduce the radius, and you can just turn on this shaded view, so now you see this reflections. Cool. So I'm just gonna apply this material to somewhere like that. I just noticed the material is actually, yeah, AI metal. And probably I'm gonna do the same to the logo and everything else on the dial. Let's go to the outliner to make this a bit quicker. I'm just gonna select everything on the dial and apply metal shader. Alright, now I can actually group them all. Or even combine it. Yeah, I'm just gonna combine it to make the selection a bit quicker. And now it's time for another material. So what I'm gonna do is to select this area and select similar and assign a new material, AI standard surface again. I'm just gonna call it AI emission. I just want this part to emit a little bit of light, not too much, but just a little bit. And yeah, something like that. You can reduce specular and add some roughness. I'm just going to do the same to the other areas like that. Do select similar again and assign the material. There we go. I think it's too bright. You just lower down the emission weight. Alright, a bit better. Now, what else? Yeah, for the needles, I'm just going to do the same thing. gonna apply AI emission to those parts as well. Cool. Now for the watch face, you can actually go with whatever color you want. AI dial. And probably I'm gonna go with black or even blue. Let's go with blue. Kind of navy color. Just gonna add metalness as well with a bit of roughness. Alright. Now probably I'm gonna do the same to the little pins here. I'm gonna apply AI metal as well. And for that part, I'm just gonna apply AI metal as well. For the strap, I'm actually gonna make another material called AI strap. And probably I'm gonna go with, again, bluish color, dark blue. Apply the same to the other strap, like that, and there we go. And it's a bit glossy at the moment, so I'm just gonna reduce the specular weight and increase roughness. Alright. And probably I'm gonna deal with the roughness here to make it more interesting or less boring. I don't know. I'm just gonna try it. If I do this, you're gonna see this roughness map applied. But before you go, probably it's a good idea to UV unwrap this. But before we do that, let's save it. It's not a very clean mesh, so it might crash the scene. So let's do that. In this case, automatic unwrapping will be enough. So if I go to the noise texture here, you can actually change the type to pearly noise, and you can sort of manipulate all of the values here. And probably I'm gonna increase frequency, something like that. So I'm just gonna change the background color. Alright. Probably this strap is too dark, so let me make it a bit brighter. Cool. Now we're almost done. Apply metal as well, and we actually have the extra mesh for the glass. You can just assign a new material and AI standard surface, and before you go, make sure you select this object, and if you go to shape node, you're gonna see Arnold tab, and you can uncheck opaque, so it won't be any problem rendering out the transparency of the object. So I'm just gonna go to presets and choose glass, and basically that's it. Now we got a glass, and you can see cool reflections on it. Alright, I didn't really add too much detail on the bottom, but you can if you want. And what else did I miss? Probably this part, I want to do the same thing. I'm going to select similar and assign emission. Not really sure what it's going to look like. Okay, not bad. Do the same thing for the bigger marks. select similar and emission. So cool. For the numbers, it's actually a bit tricky to select everything because the topology is a mess here. So it's gonna take some time to select everything there, but let's do it. Yeah, it was quick. So I'm just gonna assign material to those parts as well. Now it's looking far better. Cool. And finally, I'm gonna try something to the dial actually. Not really sure if this is gonna work, but let's try it. If I just unwrap this, and I'm just gonna project from y-axis, so it's perfectly flat. And if I actually go to geometry, and you're gonna see bump mapping, let's try this one. And if you go to ramp, and you don't really see anything yet, but yeah, something's changing there. If you actually go to bump value there, you can see, yeah, it's definitely affecting the geometry. So if you just change it to radial ramp, and you'll be able to create some brushed metal effect. You just repeat this. Actually, there's a script for this, but I'm not a good scripter, so I'm just gonna do it manually this time. Okay, I'm just gonna repeat it over and over again. And it's a bit time-consuming process. Yeah, it's a bit messed up now. Probably you can generate the bump map in Photoshop. It's way easier there. Actually, there's gotta be some easier way. Let's try something completely different. If I go to the UV editor, probably there should be a way to make it rectangular. So I'm just gonna try it. Not really sure if this is gonna work, but if I select that and cut it, I'm just gonna go to modify, and there should be unfold. Here we go. Do that, and I'm not really sure how I can do that. It's not the one. Alright. I don't really remember the technique. to gridify everything. Let's unitize it. Select everything. Yeah, definitely it's not working. I'm just gonna give it a shot. I'm not really sure this is gonna work, but if I go back to the actual material and if I go to bump map again, break connection, and let's try noise this time. And if you go there, you can reduce the density and reduce depth max. If you go to UV coordinates, you can actually stretch it out. Right, that's not the one. Right. It might work. Increase frequency. Probably too much. And reduce bump depth. Yeah, kind of worked. It's a bit ugly though. It's a bit distorted, but yeah, kind of worked. Yeah, I think it's better to make a normal map in Photoshop rather than doing this in Maya. So I'm just gonna break connection, and yeah, I'm just gonna add a little anisotropy rotation there, and that should be fine. So this is about it. So this is the watch modeling and shading done. I didn't really check down the final render view, but it should be quite similar to this viewport preview. Yeah, so thank you for watching this tutorial, and if you want something more like this, please subscribe and like this video. Bye bye.